Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of SuperFantaFi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the live-action Avatar: The Last Airbender, Season 1, Episode 7. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Penultimate episode of the season. First and foremost, we open with the whole situation with Zhao... Zhao, Zuko, jeez, I was blanking there for a second, and Iroh. Well, it turns out Lieutenant G was hanging out with one of the other people from Zhao's group and overheard, like, oh, they're going to try and send some royal guards to pick up Zuko for treason. It's like, they know he freed the Avatar. Once again, they just don't have any definitive enough proof, so they're trying to get Zuko out of the picture so that until Iroh can talk to Ozai and clear this whole thing out, because they think he's got to be the one orchestrating, because it's not like his personal, like, specialized guard that's coming to retrieve Zuko. But the whole thing was a plan. It was a plot to manipulate them into Zuko being in a position so they can kill him, make it seem like someone else did it. Which is like, wow, that's pretty gutsy of you to decide to kill your prince. To be fair, it's like, it's out here, who's going to know? The fact is your men support it too is super effed up. I mean, once again, I guess it's because even though he has the title of Crown Prince, it's not legitimate because it doesn't mean anything because he's disgraced. So it's like, once again, Zhao knows he's the one that freed the Avatar last episode. He doesn't know how to prove it. He knows he did, but just no proof. So takes matters into his own. It's like, oh, what are you going to tell the Ozai if the Fire Lord, if he asks? And it's like, I'll tell him the truth. His son was a traitor. And it's like, I can honestly tell you, I actually don't know what Ozai would do. Would he be like, yeah, that tracks? Or would he still be pissed? Because I could see him being pissed, being like, no, if anyone was going to punish my son, it was going to be me. If anyone was going to dish out traitor, like, he could get pissed at Zhao for that. Because also, like, saying Zuko's a traitor is kind of a besmirchment of his own name, because it's like, oh, you raised a traitorous son. So I could see Ozai definitely not taking it well, but I could also see a flip side of him being like, thank you, you've done right by me. My son was a failure, even to his final breath. So it's hard to say. I could see both being likely. I feel like my first option of him being pissed, like, if it was going to dish out in punishment, it would be me. I mean, hell, he dished out the first punishment, so I don't know. And Zhao has the audacity to play this role of, oh my god, I can't believe it. Who did this? Oh, I'll make them suffer. And Iroh's like, I know who did it. It's like, obviously Ozai was behind it. It's like, oh, yeah, I mean, this is kind of awkward, but he kind of gave me autonomy to do what I want to. I'm actually leading the charge. He gave me the power and position to actually wipe out the North. Which are like, in retrospect with other stuff happening, you're like, how much of that is actually him? And how much of that just like Azula playing game? I mean, I don't know. I mean, Azula was whispering into her dad's ear, but her dad was kind of like dismissive of it. He went along with it, but still dismissive of it. So how much of this is Ozai actually doing this, and how much of it is Azula forging his signature and stuff? Is she trying to, like, right, she's going to use Zhao to get rid of Zuko and get him out of the picture, but then she's probably going to try and put Zhao in a position so that he loses, so she has an opportunity to rise. She's getting rid of all her competition so that she's the one that reaps all the benefits and rewards, you know? Now that she probably already knows, like, right there in the North and stuff like that. So I think that's more Azula, because we know she's been in contact with him. So not unless Zhao's lying and saying it's coming from Ozai, but he specifically knows it's coming from Azula, because their first communications, Azula made it clear that they were communicating. So, because that's where she got the idea to, like, you know, push Zhao name to her father and stuff. I don't know. We'll have to wait to see, because I'm asking that question legitimately about that, because I don't remember. Because even later on, Iroh was like, right, it's Zhao isn't the type to make moves like this, so somebody smart has to be behind him, which we then, like, while that voiceover is happening, it cuts to Azula being like, yeah, she is. But it's like, how much of this is her and how much is the actual Fire Lord? It's probably, like, all Azula, and she's just pushing, once again, like, trying to sway her father to go more Zhao's side, but even he was like, you're not going to, like, use your, like, nice word to kind of manipulate me. So I think everything subsequently since that episode has been her whispering or manipulating Zhao into thinking it. So I was like, I don't know, like I said, maybe next episode will probably give us a lot more clarity to that. But Zuko is not dead, no surprise. But yeah, he's having to lay low, and I love that he's like, I'm gonna like do what I can. My plan is I'm gonna go there, capture the Avatar, reclaim my throne. And Iroh's like, so you don't have a plan? And he's I love the pause, and I'm thinking of one, Uncle. It's just it's cute little moments like that between him and Iroh. I love, but yeah, they're trying to, because he says he has a secret weapon, and basically he lifted something up. That looked like that was supposed to be like the Water Tribe logo, because that's what I was trying to remember. I was like, doesn't he have an insider to the Water Tribe? Because it's like, why else would you be so confident? Not because he's got new weapons and stuff, but he specifically showed off this thing that he's like, yeah, this will be how I will succeed where so many others have failed. If he's even admitted it, he has no combat experience, like leading the, you have someone who doesn't have like the battle experience leading a charge, but he's also saying like, oh, I will succeed where you failed. It's just like, yeah, you're not even a fifth of the man that Iroh is, so. Because Iroh is the honorable dude that he is. Yes, he has a dark past and some things that he did he's not proud of. But you have, oh God, Zhao, who's willing to do whatever it takes to be he's your typical slimeball character. But either way, leading a charge against the North, which the Water Tribe is aware of because they've had to deal with. They've seen the Fire Nation ships in the vicinity, so they know, and they're preparing. So when Aang, Katara, and Sokka show up, they're all excited to see the Avatars here, celebrating. Obviously, there's good and there's bad with it, because they have a lot of expectations from Aang. Once again, hammering home the whole responsibilities he has as the Avatar. It's that complication of never forget who he is, but all he's focusing on is, I'm the Avatar. He's not focusing on you being Aang, because everyone's telling him what he should do, which I'm like, I don't remember this theme being set up this early, but it trickles down so much of like, once again, Aang losing his identity, because he's lost Gyatso's words of always remember who you are, because he's forgetting to be Aang, because all he wants to do is be the Avatar, because that's what people need. People don't need Aang. They need the Avatar, master of all four elements, where it's just, I'm just Aang, the Airbender. And, once again, the Avatar is supposed to put everything first and foremost, everything else beside himself. So Aang's stuck in this awkward position of people expect something from him. Like Arnok, the leader of the Northern Water Tribe, is like, wait, you'll fight with us. And him and Pakku are disappointed when they find out Aang hasn't mastered the other elements. He's not even mastered waterbending, which I'm like, he hasn't really attempted it that we're aware of in the show, in the live action. I think along the way he was practicing it in the cartoon as well, but that might be second book stuff, I'm thinking, because it's like, no, because I'm pretty sure, like, because I don't know if that's second book stuff I'm thinking about, or was it stuff that was explored in the first book, but I feel like I remember there being an episode or something where there was like a point of contention between Katara and Aang, because him being the Avatar, waterbending came a little easier to him, where she like kind of, I think it was still in her training process where she was struggling to get it, yet it came easy to Aang. Like bending comes so, and that's also an interesting thing too. It's not something that really gets brought up until later on in the show, but some elements are harder for certain avatars to tackle than others. I will always associate it with Legend of Korra, because Korra had a hard time with one particular element in correlation to others. And I think Aang suffers the same thing. I'm jumping ahead a lot, but I want to say, wasn't it fire was the one he had the biggest struggle with? Because I think it's almost like the opposite spectrum of an airbender. So, like I said, I'm talking about future stuff, but I do distinctly remember that being an element about Korra, but I feel like I do remember it being an element about Aang. But my whole point was, like, bending comes a little easier to him because he is kind of the Avatar, a master of all four elements. I mean, he's not, this version of him isn't, but it's still kind of in his core DNA. So some bending came easier to him, and I remember that kind of being a little point of contention between him and Katara. I think it was like one episode dedicated to it. Like I said, I just don't remember if that, I feel like that was a book one thing, because like I said, Katara was still learning, but it might have been a book two storyline. I don't remember. because Aang's not even really practiced water bending at all. He's just kind of stuck to his air bending, which I'm also feel like they're also leaning into that because of the whole. Once again, it's like, oh yeah, like air bending isn't really used offensively; it's used defensively. Which, if you look back, it's like he's always used it at a more defensive way. Like he's always kind of been like, hey, I'm trying to like knock people back who are coming towards me. You know, it's always, you know, which obviously just makes me think of like, you know, I guess I have Naruto in mind because there's talks about Dustin Daniel Cretton making a live action Naruto movie. That I guess that like just got Naruto even more in my mind. It just makes me think of like the Hyuga clan and their rotation ability. Either way, but yeah, kind of. I think that's also why Aang hasn't quite bothered learning waterbending. It's just because like he doesn't want anything offensive, which it can be used as defense. But I think maybe they just made a choice of, well, we have a limited amount of time, and maybe storyline wise, some of the time that Aang used to learn some waterbending was during some of those odd adventure episodes, or maybe it isn't until like the second book that he really. It's like. Because just because you get through the books doesn't necessarily mean he's mastered that element. Because even after book 2, he still hasn't even fully mastered Earth. But because the book 2 is the Earth season. So that's why I'm like, I don't fully remember. So it might be a thing of he doesn't really master water until like part way through the second book, maybe. So that's why I'm like, maybe I'm attributing it too much of thinking he's going to like masters it by the end of book 1. I just can't remember. But it's also back to that point of feeling like a disappointment. It's kind of interesting because Sokka, Aang, and Katara all go through it in different forms. Aang, because he feels like he's letting people down as the Avatar, which let's focus on him, really stay on him with that, because he actually goes and visits one of the other Avatars, Kuruk, who has a bad reputation because he spent so much time in the spirit realm. He wasn't really there for the water tribe when they needed him, so he's kind of doesn't have the best reputation, so most people don't really like worship him like obviously like Kyoshi or Roku were. It just kind of shows you where Kuruk was in the grand scheme of things. But Aang went to visit him and we found out why. It turns out there were spirits, evil spirits coming through, and he was fighting them, but it took its toll on his body, his soul. His body's been mangled by it, as well as his soul has been corrupted, so even he can't master the Avatar state, because there has to be not only the mastery of the 4 elements, there is, which plays into the point I was trying to make of like equilibrium. There has to be an equilibrium with the Avatar state. And so he couldn't help Aang, because Aang was like, well, we could do the cheat code. Kyoshi took over, but you could try and take over. But it's like, no, I can't in my current state. And we find out, I thought it was correlated to Roku, but the face that Ko showed us, he said it was a previous Avatar. I just assumed Roku because it tied in with everything last episode. But it's like, no. Well, with episode 5 and episode 6, I thought it was Roku, but no, he's referencing Kuruk. It was his the love of his life. Her face was stolen by Ko. And so it ends up being this conversation again of, you have to do everything alone. There is no team Avatar. There's only the Avatar. You have to carry every burden alone, because if you don't, by keeping your loved ones by your side, you won't be able to do what's necessary, because they will always suffer. So you have to carry this alone. It's being the Avatar is lonely. There is some truth to that. There is moments where it is a burden that only Aang could carry, but he doesn't have to carry all of it. Up to a certain point, it is up to him as the Avatar. But once again, it goes back to that conversation of every Avatar is their own individual person, and everyone's telling Aang on who he should be and how he should approach this. You know, he's a kid that doesn't know any better. Like, he hasn't really had an opportunity to know the world. He's still young and naive in a lot of ways, and he hasn't even fully figured out. He isn't old enough to figure out fully who he is yet. He hasn't even come into his own person yet. Yet he has all these people telling him what he should do, who he should be, and what, you know. Even though they'll also tell him they can't tell him how to be the Avatar, they're still telling him how to be the Avatar, you know. It's like, we can't make these decisions for you, but we can sure as hell nudge you in the direction that we believe is the right path. But what was right for one Avatar doesn't necessarily make it right for another. And so because of that, Aang is pushing both Sokka and Katara away because he's scared of people getting hurt. It's like, right, this upcoming battle, people could get hurt, people could die, and he can't bear the thought of losing Katara or Sokka. It's like they've been through a lot together, but this is going to be a battle like anything else they've been a part of. Katara's already dealing with the whole aspect of, well, we get into the healing properties of waterbending this episode, and she wants to learn more from one of the masters, but women in the southern tribe, the northern tribe, do not bend for offensive purposes. They do it for healing purposes. So women are not allowed to battle, which is like, Katara has an issue with it, but it's like, how much of that is, I wonder, is that like just a northern tribe thing, or is that just the water tribe in general? 'Cause I don't remember if they ever really got into whether or not there's any. I feel like I remember there being some form of bad blood between the northern and southern tribe, but that might be just me making stuff up. Because it's like, the way they talk about it doesn't seem like it's just a northern tribe thing. They make it seem like it's a all the tribes thing too, but maybe it is specifically a northern tribe, because it's something Katara was kind of getting at too. They've been so closed off from the world for so long. They've kind of been, very much like the Kyoshi warriors. You've been closed off from the world for so long, just doing your own thing. Like, those are very antiquated points of view, because we didn't see that come up at any point in time when. Because I'm trying to think, like, because Katara, I don't think she did any waterbending publicly. I think the only person that really knew she was a waterbender was her mom. I don't know if anyone else knew, because she kind of kept that hidden. Not from, I think, for the purposes of, well, you also have to stay hidden because if the Fire Nation found out, so on and so forth, right? So I don't know. Like, would it have been an issue? I'm trying to remember from episode 1, did she do any bending while they were back home or not? I mean, out in the open, aside from, like, because I know she was doing it in secret, but no one will budge on this perspective. And it ends up being that interesting point where it's like, it is their traditions, but it is an antiquated decision. It's like, oh, here you are trying to change the way we work. But it is a point of, you have able-bodied warriors. You are hampering yourself when you have able-bodied warriors who you aren't willing to fight. Like, because some of your people are benders, and if you just allocate them to healing, which is necessary and important, but you're also hampering your full fighting force if you're not letting the women fight as well. So I could see Katara's point too, but it also leads into this point she has later on where it's like, I feel like I'm being hamstringed, like I've always been forced to hold back from who I am. And also, because for the greater good of keeping herself alive, she kind of had to like hold back on being a waterbender. And it kind of, they don't really lean into it, but it is, the fact is, when she needed her bending the most, and that was for her mom's sake, she couldn't bend, and her mom sacrificed herself to save her. So there is that, and obviously that trauma got re-brought up in episode 5. But it ultimately leads to her taking on Pakku, which luckily she has Sokka support, which, let's shift over to Sokka's side of things, because it's that conversation again about, right, that what he heard about from his dad not last episode, but in episode 5, it really struck a chord with him. Like, my dad didn't believe me. I feel like a failure in my dad's eyes, which obviously Zuko could make a comparison. Zuko understands that more so than any other character. But it was actually Princess Yue that pointed out to him, is like, what I remember about you from our dreams, first thing you were concerned about wasn't even yourself. It was about making sure your friends were okay. Your heart is what makes you a warrior. Your kindness and just how you care about people. That's going to be your strongest asset as a warrior. So I thought that was interesting. Which, speaking of Princess Yue, it's she's played by Amber Midthunder. I was so excited when I saw her, like when I was looking at the cast and I saw her as Princess. I was like, yeah! This is actually tying back into what I was bringing up in episode 5. The episode answers it, but I was like, when the Fox situation came up and I was like, am I being stupid? Isn't that tied into... And yes, that's what I was wondering about the Princess Yue of it all. Because that's what I was also saying, like, I heard the voice and I had reference, I knew who was playing this character. I knew it was Amber Midthunder, and thinking back, I was like, that sounded like that was her voice. But yeah, like, we find out ever since she was sick, she got her dad prayed to the moon spirit, so she's part spirit, mainly human, but in her dreams she can go. I remember that whole thing of like some connection to the spirit. I just couldn't remember Yui's full circumstances. But yeah, like she came in the form of a fox. It ties into another story beat that I was like, wait, are these two things connected? I just wasn't sure, but yes, it ultimately connected the things I was thinking about. But yeah, she's the fox that Sokka met back in episode 5. Because he recognized it because the piece that's almost like a crown or whatever, that head piece in her hair, is what he remembers wrapped around the fox's tail. It's actually really cute. They're both kind of in a similar boat. That's why I really like the parallels between their stories of she is a priestess and she loves serving her community, but sometimes she just wants to, when she was young, she'd run off to the kitchen with the older ladies and cook desserts and make desserts, and she loved it. And, Sokka knows what it's like to have a heavy responsibility, but wanting to just, be a boy. It's like both of them are, because he's so shocked. It's like, oh, I thought you were a princess, but he's doing his nervous thing of running his mouth more than he needs to. But it's like, yeah, like you wanted to kind of just be a girl. Sometimes I just wanted to be a boy, but we had our responsibilities with so many people needing us, and it just never gave you an opportunity to just be Yue sometimes, and didn't give Sokka the opportunity to just be Sokka sometimes. We also find out about her engagement to Han, but they broke it off. Specifically, it was Yue who broke things off. And he never got an answer, which obviously for Sokka, he's kind of like, he doesn't know how to feel about it, because he's like, oh, so you're not together, but also like you were engaged. But he's like, if you were to go through it, would you have gone through it? If Han doesn't answer, but it gives Sokka all the answer he needs, because it's like, this dude's handsome and awesome, and if Yue broke up with him, like, what chance would someone like me have, But it's like, right, he's great in a lot of ways, but he's not the boy of her dreams. And you're like, oh, that's super cute. But yeah, this whole conversation about, forget what other people think about us. The only people that can determine who we are is us. We make those decisions. That Sokka ended up backing up Katara, who wants to challenge Pakku to a fight to prove herself. Which also, I thought I was like, wait, is that who I think it is? The actor who plays Pakku, I immediately recognized him. The actor's name is Adolfo Martinez. Well, he's just A. Martinez in some credited sometimes. But I've seen him in a number of things. Probably the thing I was first introduced to him in was what's that show, Longmire? I didn't even bring up like Amber Midthunder. Like the thing I best know her from, like my first introduction to her was like Legion, her playing the female version of Carrie. Then like her in Roswell, New Mexico, and most probably like a fairly recent thing. Probably a lot of people would know her from it. It's from she played the lead character in the most recent Predator movie, Prey. So just kind of wanted to throw that in there too, because I completely forgot to talk about that. But yeah, Katara goes up against a master, and she's pretty still amateurish herself, but she's able to hold her own because she's able to implement the water bending in ways that, I mean, once again, she adopted at something from earth bending and applied it to water bending. So, but granted, Master Pakku has a lot more control. They both kind of go full, well, him in particular, especially the sliding, went full Iceman there. But it's like, yeah, like you get to really see what water bending can do when you really, really get into it. And just, especially when you're able to freeze it and the applications of it in a lot of ways. So, it was a dope sequence. But despite everything, Katara, everyone walked away impressed by her, despite Pakku being like, yes, you are a very good waterbender, but you're still not getting permission to fight. But it didn't change, like, guys and girls walking up being like, oh my god, how'd you do that? Never seen anyone push Pakku to this. It's like, I don't know if it's just like, it's a combination of pride where it's like, I don't know if anyone else in the tribe has as much of an issue as he does. I mean, once again, it is tradition and it is what it is, but it's like an antiquated thing because it's like, once again, it wasn't even that much of an issue in the Southern Water Tribe. It's unclear, but once again, it's still a thing of, from a strategic standpoint, you are hampering yourself from having more fighters on the field. That's, especially when you have a whole bunch of benders who you're just allocating them to support, which support is necessary, but if you can have them on support and out there in the battlefront, it can help. But, you know, I'm not some military strategist. That's probably, like, really stupid to have your healer out on the front lines. Playing enough video games would probably tell me that. But it's like, right, if you have someone with healing capabilities who can also attack, it's kind of, you know, never bad to have that extra support in your back pocket for your main fighters as well, you know. But at the end of the day, once again, tying it all in, Sokka and Katara talk to Aang that it's like, right, you're not the only one that has to worry about people getting hurt and killed. That isn't just on you. We're all worried about that. That isn't just an Avatar thing. But at the end of the day, you know, it's not up to Paku or you, Aang, that tells me if I can or can't fight. I'm going to make that decision for myself. They all have to. Like, we've made it this far as a team, and you're thinking that you have to carry so much as an Avatar alone. So many people are telling you to. Kyoshi, Roku, Kuruk, which is also interesting if you notice. The only person he hasn't talked to so far was a fellow Airbender. But, which I don't feel like except for the one instance I can think of, I don't remember Aang really talking to any previous airbending avatar except for this one instance in the final season. But, you know, once again, memory's not what it used to be. No, my memory, to be fair, my memory's always been crap. But it's them telling him, like, right, this isn't about this is how they handle things in the past. Once again, you're trying to compare yourself to them. We're living now, and this isn't their story. This is yours. Only you can write the legend of Aang, which I'm like, I wonder, is that a line directly taken from the show, or is that just supposed to be a wink, wink, nudge, nudge? Because, as I've talked about, like, obviously the sequel series to Avatar: The Last Airbender being The Legend of Korra, which I should also note, in case you're curious, I've never seen all of Korra. I think I've mentioned it before. Back when it was originally airing, I've only seen the first season to completion, I think, but it's been so long I don't remember. Yeah, because I think I only ever saw the first season, and I just never caught up, so I need to change it at some point in time. I need to watch all of Korra. Like, I'm fairly certain I've seen all of the first season, but not all of it. Maybe all of it? I think I have. Whatever the case may be. But the Fire Nation approaches, and it's time to go to war, time for battle. So obviously that's all going to tie up into the season finale. Obviously, things are about to get sad considering how that storyline plays out from my memory. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. I'm also curious to see, are they going to tee up anything? Oh, before I'm up here about to wrap this up, I completely forgot about another angle of the episode. We'll get to that in a second, but the next episode being the season finale, I'm curious to see, are there going to be little teaser setups for season 2? Not just in the nature of but will they actually have like a little teaser at the end of like, oh, introducing of a certain character that we meet in book 2. A very important character. I wonder if she's going to be like a little wink and nod to her or not. That'd be kind of neat. I'm sure it's going to be a lot of setup for Azula having a more prominent role in season 2. But yeah, speaking of Azula, that's another element to this episode I almost completely forgot to talk about. Her being pushed by her father, and it's just like, yep, yeah, you didn't pass this test. What? I beat him. It's like, yeah, but you should have beat him 2 moves ago. It's like, Jesus Christ. But also, I think it's so effed up. They have earthbenders they have there to be like, yeah, you're kind of like, I mean, it's no different from a gladiator pit of like, oh yeah, you're being forced to fight. You're meant to be Azula's training dummy, sadly. But obviously, like, she's been irritated, and, you know, her friends try to tell her, it's like, right, your dad knows you're the best. He's trying to let you know without letting you know. But for her, it's like, I'm tired of his games, and the moment she gets an opportunity, she proves herself. It's like, no, I'm done with your games, and she does her thing, and that thing involves lightning. I have to look it up, because I'm so curious. Okay, I looked it up. I knew it wasn't being crazy, because I brought it up previously, but now I felt so stupid, because in this episode, she does the lightning thing, which I'm like, hey, yo, that's dope. But also, because I was like, because previously when she had blue spark up, it didn't look like it was lightning. It looked like it was blue fire. But I was like, am I being crazy? Because I'd even drawn a comparison. I'm like, does her name tie into like having like the root word Azure part of it? Either way, I looked it up and with pictures. Her flames are blue. I was like, for a second, I was like, am I crazy? Didn't she have blue flames? She sure as hell has blue flames, and maybe they're going to make a whole point of that. But yeah, she did the lightning thing, which I'm like, hey, that's so dope. But they're because I don't think that lightning thing comes up until book 2, I think. But obviously, you know, it's a part of Azula's arsenal, but it's also meant to showcase like how powerful she is. Like, wasn't the first maybe Azula was the first introduction of that? I feel like I remember the introduction being the ability to redirect it, not necessarily summon it like that. I think the reasoning behind being able to do it has to do with, like, I mean, lightning is hot, and maybe there's some like connected, like, I'm sure you could. I don't know if there would be a scientific explanation. I'm sure maybe there could be why someone, you know, we're talking about superpowers here, but someone being able to use fire and how you translate that into lightning. But yeah, I think, yeah, that was just interesting, and I love that after proving herself, she's like let me go out there in the world and show you, because being here is just going to hinder me. Let me go out there in the world to show you, and you see that look across Ozai's face. It's like, yes. Because by pushing my children, once again, by adding all this pressure, eventually they will form into diamonds. And he's glad to see what his daughter's able to do. It's like, good. You're willing to, you need to push, you need to show me your determination and your willingness. So, like I said, I think this is teeing up Azula and her crew, you know, being world bound and leaving the Fire Nation behind. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what else the season finale sets up, as I mentioned previously. So, but really, that's all I wanted to talk about. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.